Hey guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. You're not Toddy One Skip, but that's okay because you're here and this is our community. Our community, over 12,000 of you guys, because there's one of me. So, guys, I'm so proud to be part of this community. I see you guys exchange how you doing with each other, all these, salutations, and you guys have found a community, and I'm just really proud to be a part of it. What are you eating? There's some steak here. Steak with onions and potato wedges. All I gotta do is go home, cook an egg, put it on top, hit the egg, and have the yolk go. A little bit of salt and pepper in my soul. That's my brekkie. I do want to do the Wade Wilson sentencing with you guys. Do you want to do it live with me? Let's do it. Seriously, let's do it. I think we'll have fun with it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to commit. I'm committing to it. So let's do it. Okay, so the difference in Dans. Guys, you know that, I had a very specific picture of the Dan in Gypsy's life. And the Dan that I had on my mind was a guy that was convicted of, I don't want to say that felonies, but definitely misdemeanors, had some drug issues. We know this because, unfortunately, a lot of us thought that Dan Glidewell was the Dan Glidewell who was the older fellow that Gypsy was with by so many years. The Dan Glidewell that has been exposed, that I heard was the Dan Glidewell, was from Anxious Ant. I don't know who was the first one to determine who the new Dan Glidewell was, or who the real Dan Glidewell stand up. So I don't know who the first person was for that. But to me, it was Anxious Ant. So Anxious Ant, kudos to you, you Australian girls, you. I love your content. I've said that a million times. And I just think you're fantastic. I think that your channel will grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And you guys are definitely very entertaining. So kudos to you. And kudos to you for digging and diving and finding out who the real Dan is. Because, see, doesn't that change our picture in our head of what happened that night? Like, I thought, okay, Dan did some of this, but the Dan in my mind was a big guy who was an older fellow, and that was the picture. Now I see somebody like Ken that could DeeDee have, is that the face? Because the other face I bought, but is that the face of a guy that could do something? It's possible, because we all know that Nick doesn't have the face of a guy that could do something. But in all honesty, we don't really know what Nick did. So now several of you have said, but at the trial, Dan spoke. Don't you guys have pictures? I've never seen a picture of that, but apparently some of you have seen pictures of that, and then they disappeared. Now somebody's supposed to come up with a picture of that today from the trial. But I just thought that person spoke to a detective. I didn't know that Dan Glidewell actually got on stand and spoke at the trial, because why wouldn't that be available? Here's the thing. I gotta stop saying that, because I do want to stop saying that. Does the new Dan Glidewell seem like he could do something that we would think that the old Dan Glidewell could do? And what is this old Dan? How come he's been stumped for a long time? How come he hasn't come out and said, that's not me? And then somebody said, hey, it's the same guy, he's just older. I don't think so. But how come the old Dan Glidewell hasn't come out and said, hey, that's not me? Isn't that weird? Because if I was being accused of things, I'd be like, yo, man, that's not me. That's just not me. So that's kind of weird. We never heard, and you would think that somebody would be saying, hey, not me. But I don't know. So, but yeah, I love how the girls go, Gypsy's got a type. Well, not with Ryan, but I guess Ryan was just a means to an end. What do you guys think? Do you think Ken it was in on the hey, babe, you can't come out and live with me. So I want you to go find somebody who you could use and go live with, have sex with, and break up with 4 months after. I don't know about that. Like, what would have been the goal behind that? So I don't buy that theory. I think that Gypsy used Ryan as an address and wanted to use him to make Ken jealous. She never had any intentions of staying with him, even when she got the dog. And that's the thing that pisses me off. Gypsy, you knew you were getting that dog, and you knew you were going to leave that dog, and you knew that Ryan worked a lot, and that's not fair. So, the fact that, first of all, I don't like Gypsy. I just don't like her. I think she's not a good person. I think she discards people. We've seen the videos of what I think about Gypsy Rose. We've seen that. But the Dan has got me scratching my head. The Dan. I've only been following this case, actively kind of since March or April, right? March or April, I'd say, maybe. I don't know, December or something. I don't know. But there are people who have been following this case for a really long time. And how come it's taken 2 girls from Australia to say, hey, you guys got the wrong Dan, in that wonderful accent that they have. But they love our accent. Yo, man, we got the wrong Dan. You got the right Dan. How'd they do that? How'd that happen? And now it seems that other people are saying, oh, well, I already knew that wasn't the right Dan. Well, this is the right. Really? How come I only heard it from across a huge pond over there from Australia? And what do you guys think? Now that we have a different picture of a different Dan, does it change the picture that we have in our head of what happened that night? Or what we think happened that night? I still think Gypsy unalived DeeDee, or maybe Dan did, or maybe somebody else did, or maybe she was medicated and overly medicated, and then she was taken care of over the course of a couple days, because still, guys, still says that it took a few days. She didn't pass away like that. It took some time. That's what I heard. The autopsy said that it took some time, or the police report said, or the crime report. I don't know. That's what I heard, that it took some time. Wouldn't it be a kick in the pants if there was never a DeeDee and none of this ever happened and it was just some sort of ploy? Because everything about this case has gone cockadoodle, skywalking, I don't know what, but just upside down. You turn me. Seriously, everything about this case is just been mixed up, thrown up in the air like pizza dough, and coming down on our faces, making us look all shameful and bad. But I'm not, because here's the thing. I never unalived my mom. I don't know about the average bear that does. You get the average bear thing? That's what Gypsy wanted to be. I want to ask you what you think. Do you still think, or did you think, or now do you think more? What do you think? That's the question. What do you think? That's the question. Guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. It is Friday, so everybody's working for the weekend. But I'm not, because you guys know that I just work all the time. I'll see you on the next one. Be better today than you were yesterday. Not half as good as you'll be tomorrow. Always be kind. Don't be Dan, Gypsy. Just be yourself, guys. All right, thanks.